I mean, I married Andy for the emotional support.
Right. I don't I don't think I married Jeff for the emotional support. What did I marry Jeff for? He was pissing he was pissing me off this morning. We don't stay mad at each other for more than 10 minutes. That's how you know it's unfortunately real love. But
Yeah,
I was pissed at him. And I told him, I said, you're being a fucking brat, and I left the house. You
yeah,
know, we're at
yeah.
brat status.
I love that. I love like a quick 10-minute fight where it's like I
Mhm.
don't have the stamina to really see this all the way through, but
No.
I'm gonna be mad anyway. I this morning I was on the couch and I was listening to Ezra Klein, and
Mhm.
it's talking about how our phones are destroying our lives, and Andy comes
Right.
to ask me a question. Um, and in the middle of me listening to a podcast about destroying relationships, I was like, can I listen to this, please? I just held my phone. I was like, I'm talking.
See, you're Jeff, because what my husband does is he listens to his podcast without headphones in all over the house. He's
Yes.
tinkering around, he's in the garage, he's doing this, he's doing that, and he listens all day long, and he listens it on double speed. So he's a real serial killer.
Me
And
too.
I come in and I'm like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And he is, oh, it's a scoff. It's a moan. He is so fucking annoyed that I'm
Yeah.
ruining his concentration. And I'm
Mhm.
like, the privilege that you have to sit around in this house and listen to fucking podcasts all day when most people are out, tilling the land, Jeff.
You know how people are out tilling the
You
land.
know, of course, especially in New York City. How did you and Andy meet again? I feel like I asked you this recently, but how'd y'all meet again?
We met, at like a comedy show, basically.
Yeah.
And like years later, I did his podcast, and I was like, okay, he's funny. And then we really started hanging out after like a mutual friend's wedding. We like
Yeah.
hung out at this wedding, and basically like that night, we're just like, I was like, I think I'm into this guy, and I'm actually like concerned about whether or not I'm doing well because he's not my type at all. And it was like such a severe pivot from like the men that I had dated,
Mm-hmm.
which at the time I didn't realize was like a sign of health. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like when you go from like a cold, dark room into sunlight for a
Yeah.
while, you're going to be squinting and going, "This isn't right."
So
That's
what
sort
was your type before you met Andy?
Um, just guys that were like emotionally, it was like emotional like Fort Knoxes, just like,
Mm.
where you're like hugging a ghost, basically.
Yeah, no
And
soul.
yeah, guys that were really like kind of aloof and brooding, and Andy
Hmm.
still has a little bit of that, but like just not open to the idea of like self work at all or
Yeah.
like therapy or anything like that. Like Andy was a severe diversion from that.
But I feel like when y'all met, it happened pretty quick,
Oh
right? Like
yeah.
like things moved very quickly.
Oh yeah, very quick. It was like
Okay.
9 months before we were engaged.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
I like
like,
that.
well, at a
Hmm.
certain age, and I did tell him, I was like, if you don't want to get married, I'm not, I'm out of here, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, well, he's like, I could get married again, and I was like, I didn't even mean me. I just meant if
Hmm.
you don't want to get married again, like then we're not doing this. It was a real business deal. I really approached the whole thing like a business deal.
Yeah, that's how I approach everything now. I treat our relationship as if we're partners and we're running a law firm. And
Yeah.
when he is not carrying his weight, I'm like, boardroom meeting, sit the fuck down. You're
Yeah.
about to get fired.
Yeah.
You got to pick up some slack. I swear to God. We had like one of our, like, we've been together a very long time, but every couple of years you have to have that sit down, like, I'm going to murder you or we're going to fix some things
Yeah.
conversation. And
Hmm.
we were actually in our parking lot at our country club. This is the most fucked up conversation. And I told him, I was like, Jeff, if I was a tennis wife and I was just farting around all day and not also coming home and taking care of the kids and all this shit, then you would leave me.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm going to need you to step up and you'd be fired from this company. You're about to get fired from this
Yeah.
corporation. And
Oh, we've
that's
had a few
he.
of those. We've had a few of
Mhm.
those too. Yeah, for sure. After I had a kid, it was like, oh my God. I mean, it was tough too because I couldn't tell where the rage was coming from.
Yeah.
there was so much rage towards him, and just being nice to him was like nearly impossible. So it was hard for me to like sit down and be like, you need to do this, this, and this, because
Yeah.
frankly, I was like, I haven't even asked how you're doing, and I don't
Right.
care, you know? Like,
Were you more angry at him because he didn't initially, like, it didn't click right away, where he didn't know exactly what he was doing? Like, was he asking too many questions? Was he not doing enough? Are you just postpartum and you're staring at him going like, I hate you? You can't
well, for a
explain it?
while, yeah, I was postpartum, and he was anxious, and I was like, I don't give a fuck how you feel. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, take your anxiety and deal with it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to be brave, okay? Because I don't know what I'm doing either. And
Mm-hmm.
um, everybody goes, "Oh, well, it's going to come naturally to you as a mom." It doesn't. It doesn't. You got to
Yeah.
figure it out as you go along. I was literally asking my nanny Jane, who's sitting across the room from me right now. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "How do I do this? How do I teach her how to fart?" How, like, there was stuff that I just didn't know, and I couldn't be dealing with his feelings at the same time.